So let's bring you up to date with the latest from UEFA's ExCo meeting, the Executive Committee, and whether or not leagues can be called or voided, and Champions League for next season. Mark Ogden, what is going on?
Well, UEFA ExCo have meeting today, and they've had input from the European Club Association, European Leagues, the European FIFA Pro, or the Players Union, and the outcome is that they've basically said that any leagues that can't finish the season as whole will be able to play off to decide who qualifies for the Champions League and Europa League next season. So I think it's the first admission from UEFA that seasons might not get finished now because there are so many unresolved issues.
Are there any stipulations that came from UEFA about when those leagues would have to finish those fixtures by, given the story about Champions League fixtures or the conclusion of that tournament and the Europa League potentially being in August?
Well, everything's very vague. There's no hard and fast stipulations or anything, but they do suggest that they'd like August to be held aside or used for the culmination of the Champions League and Europa League. I mean, what we're now in April, it does seem very ambitious because there are a lot of issues to be resolved, like cross-border travel, testing, and for one, the Dutch government at the weekend banned any public gatherings until the 31st of August. So, luckily there are no Dutch teams involved in European competitions, but it's unlikely that one European country is going to have a very kind of stringent ban on public gatherings and others aren't. So there are big issues to overcome, but UEFA have changed their stance, and the fact that they are considering playoffs or a different format to resolve qualification suggests that they're beginning to realise that it's going to be very hard to get the seasons finished across Europe.
Yeah, and there's no way you can have uniformity of, right, this is what's going to happen because a league is different. Let's talk Premier League. What does today's meeting and the outcome of it mean for the Premier League going forward, do you think?
Well, it gives the Premier League the opportunity, as a worst-case scenario, to get the league finished very quickly and without playing the rest of the 9 match days. Now, as it stands, there are 2 outstanding games for match day 29. It's Man City v Arsenal, Sheffield United v Aston Villa. So they could get those games played somehow, and then everyone will be on 29 games. So potentially they could say, you've all played 29 games, the table rests as it is now, and we will play off the key qualification games and maybe even a relegation playoff if needs be. It's all up in the air. It's all hypothetical right now, but the UEFA decision does enable the Premier League to think about this scenario whereby they don't have to finish the league. Listen, the Premier League wants to finish the league because away from UEFA, there are so many issues to resolve. Premier League prize money, relegation, promotion, all sorts of issues which you can't envisage all of them being resolved without legal issues being taken up.
We've already spoken about the Champions League and the Europa League potentially being concluded, this season's one in August. But as part of today's executive meeting with UEFA, they're talking about qualification for next season and how national organisations do that. And there's talk about, well, okay, if you're not able to play all your games, then have average points per fixture. Problem with that is, Mark, and you're not going to satisfy everybody, different teams have got different strengths of schedule.
Well, the one example you could use is Chelsea. They still have to play Man City and Liverpool in the league this season, which means that Chelsea are currently in 4th and they are holding on to a top 4 spot, but they haven't played the top 2 teams, the best 2 teams by a long way in the Premier League. So if you're Man United, Sheffield United, Wolves, you'll say, well, hang on a minute, we've played, in some cases, played Liverpool and Liverpool and Man City home and away. It's not fair. But there's not going to be a fair solution that suits everybody. It's simply impossible to envisage. And I think right now, the concern is, will football happen again in the next months rather than who will finish where? Because we're being told every day about potential lockdowns going on until the new year. So football does seem to be off the pace in terms of reality, I think.
So the UEFA meeting today, it's probably left us, in the words of Johnny Nash's song, not Johnny Cash, with more questions than answers.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.